These army personnel are performing their regular duties, but unbeknownst to them, they are about to be sucked into an age-old portal that'll take them to another dimension, where they'll have to use all their skills to survive. In an alternate dimension, a ship is moving over a sea of sand, heading toward an incredibly tall tower with a storm over it. The captain of the ship is reading ancient texts about the same tower. Out of nowhere, a giant horned monster emerges from underneath the sand and attacks the ship. During the attack, one of the crew members is impaled on the horn of the monster, while another is thrown overboard and left behind. On Earth, a United Nations Joint Security Operations team is conducting a mission looking for a previous team that went missing without any explanation. The team's captain, Natalie Artemis, is listening to the last transmission sent by the team that went missing. The last thing they mention is entering a massive storm. Natalie's team includes Marshall, Dash, Steeler, and Axe. Marshall tells Natalie that another member of their team, Link, has found something up ahead. While driving toward Link, Dash points out that there are markers along the road with strange ancient texts written on them. Link informs Natalie that he has found the tire tracks of the previous team, but they disappear in the middle of the road. It makes no sense. They notice a giant storm brewing in the distance, which was not there at all a second ago. Natalie remembers that a giant storm is what the previous team mentioned in their last transmission and tells her entire team to get in the cars and start driving in the opposite direction. They theorize that perhaps a hostile enemy is creating and using the storm as a cover. Before they know it, they are engulfed by the storm, and strange lightning bolts start striking the ground all around them. Dash notices that the markers along the road and the writing on them have lit up. Natalie sees the same symbols appear in front of her in the air. She is confused. Because of the storm, they can't see anything, and the cars fall off a cliff. All the soldiers are knocked out. When they wake up, they are in the middle of a desert, overlooking some rocky structures, and the storm is gone. Natalie is confused because there are no deserts or mountains mentioned on her map. This means they have somehow been taken very far away from where they were. Marshall reports that the lightning strikes messed up their GPS, and even his compass isn't working. Natalie says that they have to go old school, navigate by the sun, and try to make it back to base. Axe discovers the remains of the previous team that they were looking for. Their vehicles are destroyed, and their bodies are completely charred to the bone. Link theorizes that flamethrowers did this, but Natalie says that no flamethrower, in fact, no military-grade weapon burns hot enough to do something like this. Marshall notices that there is glass on the floor, and Natalie says that when sand melts, it turns into glass. They all start freaking out. Link notices that there are no tracks in the sand, so whoever attacked the previous team did not do it by land. Natalie says it's time for them to move. While they drive, the hunter who fell off the ship earlier spots them with his binoculars, confirming that they have arrived in the alternate dimension. Next, they see the ribs of a humongous being and freak out, imagining the creature they belong to. The hunter tries to warn them by shooting an arrow full of red chalk, but they misconstrue this as an act of aggression and fire at him. Just then, the monster that wrecked the ship earlier emerges from the sand, and the soldiers make a run for it. They try to shoot anything and everything at it, but it has nearly no effect. The monster manages to topple over Axe's car and kill him. Natalie tells Link to use the RPG, but before he can, the monster topples their car as well. The monster stabs Steeler with one of its horns, but before Steeler dies, he pulls the pins on his grenades and throws them in the monster's mouth. As they explode, the monster gets distracted, giving the other soldiers time to make a run for it again. The soldiers find cover inside a cave where the monster can't reach. Dash starts freaking out, but Natalie orders her to keep it together. She says they are going to survive because that's what soldiers do. Just then, a giant spider-like monster appears behind her and stabs her with its stinger. She gets knocked out. Link and Marshall shoot the monster and check up on Natalie. She has no pulse. Hundreds of the spider-like monsters arrive, and the remaining 3 soldiers make a run for it. The hunter helps them by shooting exploding arrows at the monsters, but the monsters spot him, and he is forced to retreat into a safe house. One of the spiders lifts Marshall into the air and eats him. Meanwhile, Natalie wakes up. but she is incredibly disoriented and weak. She sees the fuzzy image of a spider above her, which stabs her with its stinger again, knocking her out. Next, Natalie wakes up in a gross, fluid-filled cocoon and struggles to get out of it. She finds herself in a dark and damp place, which appears to be the nest of the spider monsters. She finds Dash and Marshall's dead bodies hanging in similar cocoons. She finds one of their bags lying on the ground, and inside it are some flares and a canister of oxygen. Next, Natalie notices that there is wind coming into the nest, which means that there is an opening nearby. She lights a flare and starts walking. Down the line, she finds the eggs of the spider monsters. Next, Natalie runs into Link, who's managed to survive like her, but is in severe pain. He reports pain on the right side of his torso, and when he lifts his shirt, it is revealed that the spider monster eggs are growing out of his body. Natalie freaks out, and Link tells him to run. One of the spider monsters arrives, and Natalie burns it using the oxygen and the flares. She makes a run for it, and after a brief struggle, makes it out of the nest. The spider monsters try to follow her, but it appears that they cannot step into the sun, which is why they live underground and only come out at night. Natalie is exhausted and ready to give up, but she looks at her engagement ring, which motivates her to try and make it back home to her beloved. Natalie finds high ground and surveys the area. She sees the storm that brought them here, but it is all the way across the desert, and she figures out that any movement in the sand is quickly detected by the desert monster. Next, Natalie discovers the ruins of some old ships, and the whole time, the hunter is following her. The hunter does not approach her peacefully because her team shot at him earlier, but she misconstrues his defensiveness for aggression, and a fight ensues between the two. The hunter doesn't speak English, so they have no way of clearing their misunderstanding. After an almost equal contest, the hunter wins the fight, ties up Natalie's hands, and brings her to his safe house for the night, where they are protected from the spider monsters. The next morning, the hunter goes out to assess the situation, but unbeknownst to him, Natalie has managed to break free from the ropes using a sharp rock. When he returns, Natalie beats him and ties him up. He doesn't give up so easily, and another fight ensues between the two. During the fight, the two accidentally fall out of the safe house, and the hunter falls into one of the spider monster nests. Right as the spiders are about to eat him, Natalie pulls him out. She cuts his hands loose, and the two finally realize that they are not actually enemies. Classic humans. In their limited ability to communicate with each other, the two decide to work together to cross the desert and get to the storm. The hunter tells Natalie that the sand monster is named Diablos. Natalie says that if she can get to her RPG, they can use it to kill Diablos, but the hunter has another plan. He says that they need the stinger of one of the spider monsters. They'll use it to inject their poison into Diablos and knock him out. Next, they make a plan, in which Natalie acts as bait to lure one of the spider monsters out, while the hunter uses a giant sword to kill the monster and cut off its stinger. Afterward, the hunter and Natalie spend the night bonding, even though neither of them speaks the other's language. The hunter creates a special arrow by attaching the stinger to it, while Natalie trains to use the weapons that the hunter has given her. She is a natural at it, however. She is shocked when she learns that the weapons actually possess magical powers. Next, the day arrives when they are going to face Diablos. They first create a distraction by throwing a barrel at a distance to draw Diablos' attention to it. However, as they run to grab the RPG, Diablos hears their footsteps and catches up to them. After a few close calls, the hunter shoots the stinger arrow, and it connects right into the eye of Diablos. Diablos gets dizzy for a second, and it looks like their plan has worked, but it regains stability almost instantly. Natalie grabs the RPG and shoots directly at the monster's face, but that has little to no effect as well. The monster charges at Natalie, but out of nowhere the hunter appears on its head and sinks his sword inside the brain. The monster shakes its head violently, slamming the hunter into a rock and knocking him out. Natalie uses a grappler to climb onto the monster's head and finally sinks the sword deep enough to kill it. Next, Natalie carries an unconscious hunter across the desert. But at night, they get caught in a sandstorm, and she is forced to set up a tent that she found alongside the RPG. She tends to the hunter's wounds. The next morning, he wakes up and the two cross the desert and reach a much nicer part of the land. They cook some food, eat, and call it a day. At night, a creature flies above them and Natalie wakes up. She asks the hunter what is going on and he just says the word, Rathalos. Suddenly, there is a fire in the distance, and a stampede of huge animals rushes toward the two. During the chaos, the two are rescued by the old monster-hunting crew of the hunter. Natalie thanks the captain of the crew, and to her surprise, he speaks English. He knocks her out. Natalie wakes up in a cell, and the hunter takes her to meet the captain of the crew. He apologizes, and she asks him why he locked her up. He admits that people from her world have come to this world before, and he is wary of them. That is how he speaks English. He learned it from the people who came before. Natalie asks him if he knows how she got here, and he tells her that there is a tower at the center of the storm, which is a remnant of an ancient civilization. That civilization knew how to travel between this dimension and Earth, and the tower houses the machinery that opened the portal for it. He says he wants to destroy that tower because an open portal between Earth and this dimension can be dangerous. However, the ancient civilization left the most powerful monster to guard the tower, a Rathalos. He explains that a Rathalos is a dragon that is only weak right before it breathes fire, and hence can only be killed in that small window. Natalie connects the dots and realizes that it was a Rathalos that burned the team they came here to find. The captain says that if Natalie helps them in the battle against the Rathalos, they will help her get home. She agrees. Next, Natalie arrives at the tower with the monster hunter crew, and the first thing they notice is that the tower is unstable and is creating random portals everywhere. Then, they hear the Rathalos in the distance, and the battle commences. The Rathalos mercilessly burns alive a few members of the crew who aren't important to the plot. Natalie steps up and bravely faces the dragon head-on, even managing to stab it in the top of its mouth. However, the Rathalos gets pissed and chases Natalie off a cliff while breathing fire. Natalie falls off the cliff straight into a portal that appears in midair and returns to Earth. On Earth, military helicopters arrive and rescue Natalie, who is relieved, but unbeknownst to her, the Rathalos came through the portal with her. The angry dragon attacks the helicopters, and all their military might is useless against it. After destroying tanks, planes, and helicopters, the dragon turns its sights toward Natalie, who manages to project a bomb into its throat, right as it is about to breathe fire. The bomb explodes in the dragon's neck, and it falls unconscious, but right as it looks like the job is done, it gets back up. The Rathalos is about to roast Natalie alive, but just then, the hunter arrives and shoots an exploding arrow right at it. He shoots another arrow right into the hole in the dragon's neck, which was created by the bomb exploding there. This gets the job done, and the Rathalos dies. The hunter and Natalie shake hands, and the captain of the crew arrives as well. He tells Natalie that he's here to protect Earth from monsters from his dimension. Just then, the storm returns, and the portal reopens. Through the portal, another Rathalos arrives on Earth. Natalie says that they have to shut down that tower, and the captain agrees, but he adds that they need to deal with this first. The three monster hunters power up their weapons and lunge straight at the Rathalos. The end. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like our channel and subscribe if you enjoy content like this. Also, let us know what movie you would love us to recap for you.